Hi there, I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome once again to Reading Nicomachean Ethics, Book 8. We're continuing on Chapter 13 today. Again, this is the discussion of friendship. The last time, with Chapter 12, we kind of hit on to the question of basically family ties, right? The difference between the friendships based upon shared interest and family based on friendships based on kin, some kind of shared common thing. One is either common interest, or the one is a common blood or kin, familiarity, and the implications of this. Now let's look at chapter 13. He goes, now friendship are threefold, as was said in the beginning. That is, remember, friendship based on pleasure, utility, and virtue, right? And or the good, shared good, in that sense. And in each case, there are friendships consisting in equality. There are, in other words, in each case there are friendships consisting in inequality. Others based on a superiority. So therefore, there's two types of relationship. There's based on there's three types of relationships. There's three types of friendship, and then there's also whether a friendship is based on equality and one on superiority. For those who are similarly good become friends, or a good person befriends a worse one. And those who are pleasant and those who are useful become friends in like manners. So therefore, someone, in other words, who's good, uh, 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 those those who are good become friends. Similarly, good, a good person befriends a worse one, and those who are pleasant, and those who are useful become friends in like manner, whether they are equal or in the benefits, or they can confer a different. That's so that even this is both in that they're equal, or they are different. In other words, that they're friends because they get pleasure from each other, or they get a utility from each other, and it might be either equal or different. Different. Those who are equal ought to love each other equally in accord with the relevant equality, whereas those who are unequal ought to render to each what is proportional given to the relevant superiority. So therefore, this is what kind of love? What is the affection or love that is owed to each? So equality people is relative to the equality, the kind of relevant equality. They should give it equally, but according with the kind of equality it is. And whereas those who are unequal should give proportional relevant to the type of superiority relationship. But accusations and blame arise in friendship based on utility. Either in it, in other words, but accusations and blame arise in friendships of utility, either in it alone or in it especially, and with good reason. So therefore, the question is that in friendships of utility, accusations and blame arise, especially, or in other words, alone or particularly, right? For those who are friends on account of their virtue are eager to benefit each other, for this belongs to virtue and to friendship. And since they compete with a view to this, there is no accusation or fights. No one is annoyed by someone who loves and benefits him, but if he is refined, he retaliates by doing some good to his friends. In other words, I'm not going to be upsetting if I don't, someone's benefiting me. In other words, he says, I'm not going to, what is it? I'm not going to accusations or annoyed by people who loves or benefit me. I'm going to retaliate. If I'm refined, I'm going to do similar things to them, right? In refined, he retaliates by doing some good to his friends. And since he who surpasses in doing good obtains what he aims at, in other words, he would not level an accusation against his friend, for each longs for the good. In other words, he's not going to accuse. I mean, if it's a question of my good and the good, I'm doing good, I'm beneficial because I'm doing this, want to do benefit to you of this. I'm not going to raise an accusation about this, and that's because I'm concerned about doing you good. I'm not concerned with the fact that you didn't want it back and do it like this, right? Would not level an accusation against a friend, for each longs to be good. There is also not many accusations in the friendships based on pleasure either, since both parties come to possess simultaneously what they long for, and if they delight in going through life together. In other words, they delight in going through life together. The pleasure, in other words, getting. In other words, their mere company gives them pleasure, and then going to life together, the pleasure they get from each other is such that it contains, and there's not going to be that much complaint here. So, therefore, what is good, the people who are doing good are based on shared good, versus those who are on shared pleasure. There's not going to be much accusations, he says here, right? They delight in going through life together. In fact, he who would accuse the other if of not pleasing him would appear laughable, since it is possible for him not to spend his days together with them. So, in other words, why you complain? If it's no longer pleasant, you'd leave, right? You wouldn't stay. So it's, in other words, you're free to, you don't have to stay with them. It's not like there is something here. So therefore, it's laughable in that sense. Staying together, but no, you don't. It's no longer pleasant. So it's funny, right? Um, but friendship based on utility is prone to accusation. For those who use each other with the view to some benefit always wants more, and suppose they attain less than what is proper. So the utility relationship is the one where there's going to be the question of accusations. So the friendship based on virtue and the friendship based on pleasure, these are going to be less likely to have accusations or blame arise. The utility one seems the most, because people want something and they think, well, maybe I deserve more. I should have got more. You gave me less, right? And therefore, there's resentment and there's other things. In other words, they blame each other, and because they do not obtain as much as they want, and they think they merit. And those who form the benefactions are not able to supply as much as the recipient wants. Next paragraph. It seems that just as there is a twofold discussion of what is just, what is unwritten, and what is according to law. So therefore, remember what is the two. Remember, it's regarding the just. There's two things. There's twofold discussion. What is unwritten, the natural law, what is just by simple nature, the unwritten, and what is according to the law, right? So also in the friendship based on utility, there is ethical. Now this is the ethical. This is the same ethike that Aristotle uses in ethical virtues, right? The ethical type. I don't like moral. I think morals. I prefer the Greek word ethical, ethic. The the type of friendship Aristotle goes to discuss in categories within friendship based on utility, and not to be confused with friendships based on character simply. In other words, this idea here he talks about moral ethical friendship is utility based. This is not more good. In other words, it's interesting. It's not shared good, not shared virtue. This is shared utility. There is an ethical friendship and a legal one. So therefore, this utility friendship, there's two types: an ethical friendship and a legal one. Accusations arise then, especially when people do not do when people do not dissolve the friendship on the same basis on which they entered it. Okay, and the legal type of this friendship depends on stated terms. One kind belongs to a marketplace transaction that happens immediately. Another is more liberal as regards the time to pay that depends on the agreement that one thing is exchanged for another. So there's two types. The legal type is stated on depends on stated terms. One is like, okay, a tit for tat, immediately tit for tat, market. I buy, you sell, right there. Other one, it's more liberal time. It's more liberal regards to time payment. I did this for you. You did this for me. So therefore, the legal one has a double side to it. There is this legal type of friendship that depends on stated terms. Stated terms. What are the terms? One is purely market, and the other one is so. Therefore, you do this. The debt is clear. In other words, liberal and time to pay and depends on the agreement that one thing is exchanged for another. The debt is clear and undisputed in this latter case. Okay, but it bears the mark of friendship because the deferral of the payment to the seller. Okay, for this very reason, there is no legal arbitrations of these arrangements in some places. But people suppose instead that those who entered into agreements on trust ought to feel affection for each other. Okay, this is this interesting, and I think this is the logic of Axelrod. Robert Axelrod's argument of in his The Evolution of Cooperation. In other words, that people enter these relationships, they bond, the growth of trust. In other words, people suppose instead of those who enter into arrangements on trust ought to feel affection for each other. So trust, the concept of trust, that I trusted you. In other words, instead of immediate tit for tat, I give this, you give that. Instead, what happens is, well, I'll give this to you now, you give it to me a couple weeks later. So that I do this for you, and you will do that for me, or we'll do these things at some time. In other words, there's a trust that we both sides will do it, right? That there's a trust, and therefore there must be this idea that it's such a relationship based on trust. There must be some affection for this. So therefore, but the debt is clear, right? A legal thing is the debt is clear, and undisputed in this latter case, right? In the latter case of in other words, the debt is that I'm going to be former or latter. So the debt is clear and undisputed in this latter case, right? Even this, I'm going to do this for you, and the time is doing it. The ethical type of the ethical type of this friendship, on the other hand, does not depend on stated terms. Instead, a gift or whatever is given as to a friend, but the giver thinks he deserves to receive what is equal or more than that on return, on the grounds that he has not given anything but lent it. So I gave the moral, okay, ethical friendship is the ethical aspect of ethical friendship is the legal friendship is we make the terms are clear. I do this for you and you do that for me. One is very strict, immediate, and the other was more moral. Here, this is what I give you a gift. I give you something. I do something for you. I do, and it is not stated. It's not. In other words, on the other hand, does not depend on stated terms. Is I kind of give it to you. I do this, hoping that you will do something for me, or either in return similar thing or maybe more, on the grounds that he has not given it but lent it, right? If someone dissolves the friendship in a different way from that in which he entered into the agreement, the other friend will level an accusation. So therefore, I did this, I intended this, and that we entered the relationship, but then you leave it. um, This happens because all or most people wish for noble things, beautiful things, coloss things here, coloss things, but choose the beneficial ones instead. So we wish for beautiful things, noble things, but we choose beneficial ones. And if the noble things, it is a noble thing or a beautiful thing to perform a benefit without expecting it to be requited. But it is, of course, beneficial to receive a benefaction. So therefore, I do a noble thing. I do something. I do a gesture to you. Now, if I wasn't desiring reciprocity, it would be noble in that sense. But doing this, receiving a noble thing or beautiful thing, is is a benefaction. It's also beneficial to you. So therefore, I give you benefit. Maybe I want a benefit in return. So he who is able, therefore, must give in return the worth of what he received, and do so voluntarily. Now, this is that Bywater brackets and do so voluntarily. Moreover, commentators dispute whether the phrase refers to the person who is returning the benefit, or that he must do so voluntarily, or to the one who is receiving it, that he must accept it voluntarily. So there's a whole debate here. Some people bracket it; they left it in. Um, Bartlett and Collins left it in here in that sense. This is that, and to do so voluntarily, so we bracket off as received. And to do so voluntarily, that who's the voluntary, who's being, that the person giving it or the person receiving it, right? I think it's both. It's that sense that I give it, in other words, worth of what he received, and do so voluntarily. And he must not make a friend of someone who is not voluntarily one. In other words, doesn't. In other words, for he must not make a friend of someone who is not voluntary one. That is not going to be wanting to voluntarily give you the benefit, on the grounds that he erred completely in the beginning, and was done a good deed by someone by whom he ought ought not to have been done, or by someone doing. Okay, let's do this line. On the ground, in other words, if it's not going to be, who's not voluntarily going to do this, right? On the grounds that he erred completely in the beginning, and was done a good deed by someone by whom he ought not to have been done one. In other words, done a good deed, or for it was not done by a friend, or by someone doing this for its own sake. He must therefore dissolve the relation, just as if he had received the benefaction on stated terms. In other words, this is a sense of I must be very careful here. This is a very this ethical conception at this moment here is that, well, okay, I should go pay it back, but then what happens if I don't really want it? In other words, I don't really want it. In other words, he must not make a friend of someone who is not voluntarily one. So, because why? On the grounds that if he erred completely in the beginning and was. No, we had a little interruption. Sorry. Okay, I'm fixed. The interruptions ended. So, this idea that what? That he was given a good deed, he shouldn't have done it voluntarily in that sense. It was not a real friendship and that they didn't really want it. Therefore, what? That the good deed was done by someone by whom he ought not to have not to have been done a deed to, right? Therefore, it was not done by a friend or by someone doing it for its own sake. He must therefore dissolve the relation in that sense, just as he received the benefaction on stated terms. In other words, he has to return it. He has to return the thing, do something in kind, or do it if he doesn't. And a person ought to agree to repay whatever he is able to. Now, this is 47. Bywater and others suggest the following amendment: he must repay what he would have agreed to repay if he was able. In other words, in other words, he ought to have agreed to. In other words, if you didn't do it, you realized, okay, no, he's not doing it for this; he's doing it for that. I don't really want. Okay, I should. This is yeah. We must. He must repay what he ought to have agreed to repay if he was have been able, right? So able to do it. Whereas if he should be unable to repay something, not even the giver would expect him to do so. So if he's not able to repay, that I can't expect him to pay in that sense. I did it. I gave this to him. He should repay. If but he doesn't. He's not able to pay, so I can't expect him to pay. As the result, he must repay if he can. Yet at the outset, he must consider the person from whom he receives a benefaction, and on what terms, so that he may submit to these terms or not. In other words, if he's going to get a benefaction, a good, can he repay it? Maybe he should. Maybe in other words. So as a result, he must repay it if he can. Yet on the outset, he must consider the person from whom he receives a benefaction from, and on what terms, so that he may submit to these terms or not. Right. So he should kind of go for the legal terms in that sense. Get the terms. You're not doing this. So ethical friendship. If you've been given something, you should give it in return in this kind of utility relationship. So that's this ethical dimension. The legal one is you state the terms. Ethical is the terms are not clear, but okay, it should be voluntarily that I should understand that I'm doing this in that sense. There is also a dispute regarding whether one ought to measure the benefit to the recipient and make repayment with a view to this, or to measure the good deed of the person who performed it. So, therefore, should you, in this ethical friendship, the question is, what should you do? There's a dispute. Should you look at what was done and measure in other words, one ought to measure the benefit to the recipient and make the payment in terms of how much benefit it was done, give equal benefit. In other words, this person did this to me and it benefited me this much benefit. Therefore, I should return that much benefit to that person, right? Or measure the deed of the person whom performed it. So, what did he do? Don't look at the result, benefit of what was benefited me, but rather how much effort did they do. Therefore, my effort should be proportional or equal to the effort that person did. So there's two issues: that how much was done versus how much benefit. The actual benefit, what was done, the benefit to me. In other words, what could happen is the person could have done a lot. This person gave like almost everything he had, but for me, it's nothing. So if I return back, the problem is I might think, oh, I just give him the same thing, a little bit back. But that little bit back for him is, my God, it looks at I did nothing. Okay, you see, have that the question, or should I do equal proportion? Should I give in proportion to what he get? How much effort did he get? In terms of what is, in other words, in terms of the good deeds of the person who performed it. For the recipient asserts that they receive from those giving the benefactions of things as were small to the giver, and which it was possible to receive from others, thus depreciating what they received. Right? You gave me nothing. That's nothing. That's not. In other words, In other words, I look at your effort, and it's not that much effort. Other people could have done it as well, but okay. But the opposite is the case. I gave, or what I, from the point of view of what I got this. Oh, this is nothing, but the person did a lot of effort. So therefore, this is the problem here, right? Receive others, thus depreciating what was received. Conversely, the givers assert that the recipient received their greatest things, and that it was not possible to get them from others, and that they gave them admit dangers or comparable situations of need. Since friendship's based on utility, so therefore that this is the two debates here, right? So therefore, this is from the point of view of the giver is one way, the receiver of the gift, and the giver of the gift. There has to be this double aspect of here. Since the friendship is based on utility, then is the relation is the relevant measure of the benefit measure. In other words, is the relevant measure the benefit to the recipient? For the recipient is the one in need, and the other's aid to him on grounds that he will get back what is equal to his aid. So, right. So, therefore, is the measure really the idea of what has been received? The benefit of this is, since the based on utility is relevant to the recipient, the benefit relevant measure to the benefit of the recipient. For the recipient is the one in need, so therefore how it returned, right? And on the other aids him on the grounds that he will get back what is equal to his aid. The amount of aid then is as much as the recipient has. The amount of aid then is as much as the recipient has been benefited, and so he must repay as much he had partaken of, or even more, since doing the latter is more beautiful, nobler in that sense, right? So therefore, do more than that, return in kind. So this is the problem of this is some of the disputes that arise, and the disputes and accusations because of the question of reciprocity in this thing. If there lacks reciprocity, and this is the concern of the differentiation of how reciprocity is perceived in utility issues. That I don't get, I did you more and you gave me less. I did much for you and you did little for me. In other words, you did nothing. You didn't really do much effort on your part. Yes, okay, good, but you didn't. That was little effort on your part. From in other words, this perception of equity and reciprocity of equity, of this all these debates and the difference between the legal conception where everything is spelled out, obligations are spelled out, versus one that's kind of left on aspects of trust, right, and this idea of affection. So let's continue. Let's wrap up this paragraph here. But in friendships that accord with virtue, there is no accusation. And the choice made by the person performing the benefaction is like a measure. For what is authoritative in matters of virtue and character resides in the choice involved, right? So therefore, in matters, in other words, this is not going to be occurring. There's no accusations because in matter, the choice involved, that what is authoritative in matters involved is a choice to benefit, to do this, to act for you. And what is noble and what you need. This is you need this. You need to do this. I'm going to. I'm good. I like your character. I like you. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this not. I'm not doing this for the sake of some utility or some shared return benefit. I'm doing this because this is my character tells me this is what you need, and I think I want to help you. I'm not respect. There's no necessary reciprocality. The reciprocality is our relationship, our friendship, and our life together. And I like your character, and the benefit I get is the association of your character, not the benefit that you're going to deal with. I'm giving you this benefit is because I sense you need it, and I want to help you. Right. This is how that works in that sense. So let's stop here and. If you have any comments or questions, please put them below and I respond to them when I see them. Please, if you have any comments or issues or for points of clarification, we can address them when I can help maybe address them if you need help on it. If you like the chapter, hit the like button. Hit the like button, please. This is it helps the algorithm. It helps grow the channel. It helps bring attention to the on YouTube's mechanism for people searching it. If you have if you liked it, please share it. Share it far and wide. Share it on this again. Any kind of you share it on your social media. Share it on your friends, or bring it to attention of people you think who are interested in these things. If you have not subscribed yet, or if you're new to the channel, please consider please subscribe. Please encourage others to come to visit the channel. Encourage them to come check what we do here. Maybe they'll be interested. Encourage them to maybe come and join us. Maybe subscribe as well. All these things like this. Now, if you didn't like it, you can of course thumbs down it, but say why in the comments, and therefore we can maybe improve or do better, or maybe correct something you thought it did wrong. Again, the purpose here is educational. So if I did something wrong and you can correct it, then people can learn from it. Right? Still. What else? If you want to follow me on social media, check me out and follow what I do on social media. You can do so with the links below. Another thing you can do is you want to know more about me as a scholar and a researcher, see my research, check out things like that. And you can do so at my academic social media links that are below my the social media links. And if you want to help, you want to be a contributor to what I do financially and assist me at these deals, a Patreon, right? We joke about this. So it would be nice. You can do so through Patreon or Subscribestar. The links are below there. Not really links, but HTML. It's the URLs, right? Another way you can do so is buy one of my books. My 3 books listed below. You can buy it. You can buy it at your local bookstore if they have it. I don't think that you make it. I'll have them order it for you, or you can order it through an online distributor like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or A&E, and all the different types of online distributors and things like this. Or you can go directly to the publisher sometimes on these things. The publisher, I was just talking with my publisher, my New York Washington University book, because they ran out, so therefore the oops. So you can still get an e-copy from them, but I think they may hope. I'm hopefully they're going to reprint new copies. We'll see what happens. Well, that's it. Well, take care. We'll see. Next time we'll look at the end, chapter 14, which is the final chapter in book 8, and then we'll turn to continue on friendship in book 9. Okay, take care. Bye bye. Have a good day.